NFL Week 14 is here, and we have so many different storylines to talk about. The playoffs are just around the corner, and there are so many different teams that are going to be competing for division titles and or the chance to go to the playoffs. There's several players on this list that their job status is in question. So let's talk about some of these storylines to start this week. For starters, we're going to talk about Kyler Murray. Then we're going to get into the Bengals and their chance to make the playoffs, JJ McCarthy and whether or not he'll be the quarterback for the Vikings, the AFC South and the AFC North division title potentially on the line this week. The Bears have a chance to win the North as well. And then Kansas City and Houston wrap it up for the 7th seed on Sunday night. Then last but certainly not least, can the Philadelphia Eagles right the ship? Let's hop right into it. For starters, is Kyler Murray done in Arizona? As a starter, he's 38, 48, and 1. There has not been a lot of postseason success. As a matter of fact, there's zero. They are 0-1 in the postseason in 7 years under Kyler Murray. Now, granted, he's been injured for quite some time now. Over the last 3 seasons, he's missed 21 games. He was actually announced as of this recording today that he was going to miss the remainder of the season with his, I believe, foot injury that he's been struggling to get back from. Placed on IR earlier this year, was supposed to have a 21-day window to come back, and now we see he's not going to make it back for the Cardinals. I think this has to do with the fact that they're trying to keep him healthy for 2 different reasons. Number one, they might cut him in the offseason, but number 2, they also might look to trade him to a team that's looking for potentially a bridge quarterback with a chance for Kyler Murray to go and try to shine and be a starter somewhere else. As of right now, his cap hit in 2026, if they cut him post June 1st, would be $47 million. It would save them around $5-ish million over the next 2 seasons. But if they just wait till 2027, his cap hit would only be $7 million, and it would save them over $36 million. I don't know if the Cardinals are going to be that patient. I know Jonathan Gannon, the head coach there, I believe is on the hot seat. You know, we haven't heard a lot about job security there in Arizona, but he has a clear losing record with the Cardinals. Now, a lot of this can be contributed to injuries. There have been so many injuries in Arizona over the last 3 seasons, primarily to Murray, who, like I said, has missed 21 games in the last 3 years. Last season, the Cardinals were, I believe, 8-9 to close out the year with Kyler Murray playing all 17 games, and he had like the 7th best quarterback rating. I'm not sitting here trying to say Kyler Murray is a bad quarterback at all, but what I am trying to say is it's clearly not working in Arizona, and it seems that the entire organization as a whole is going to be moving in a different direction. The question is whether or not that will happen this offseason. If I personally had to guess, I would say yes. I think they probably cut Kyler Murray, go with the bridge quarterback, and then hope 2027 has a good quarterback class. I don't think they'd be looking in the draft this season. We kind of saw how that played out last year with a disappointing quarterback draft class in 2025. The only viable quarterback there was Cam Ward. You know, a lot of people thought about Shedeur Sanders, but obviously that turned out to not be the case. Some people are kind of saying that the 2026 class is more of the same and that 2027 could potentially be more promising depending on whether or not quarterbacks like Lenore Sellers decide to go back to college for a year. So, Kyler Murray, will he be the quarterback for the Cardinals next year? I think it's questionable, but if I had to put any kind of money on it, I would say probably not. So that's the first storyline for the week. That doesn't have anything to do with any game previews, but now let's talk about a game preview. The Bengals Hail Mary. Joe Burrow is back. T. Higgins is back from a 3-game concussion absence. Jamar Chase is balling per the usual. The Bengals are currently 4-8 not even in conference. They're 4-8 overall. They're 2 games back from the first seed or potentially winning the AFC North behind the Ravens and the Steelers. They have a chance to go out and win this division. And it all starts in Buffalo this weekend. This is a must-win game, in my opinion. At Buffalo, they must win it. Number one, they have to capture the momentum. But number two, I think the division winner for the AFC North is going to have at least a 9-8 record with some key divisional wins. The Bengals have those divisional wins over the Steelers and over the Ravens. The question is whether or not they can get to that 9-8 spot. Like I said, they're 4-8. They have to win out. And at Buffalo is the start to all of that. Then they have Baltimore at home, a very winnable game. On the road versus the Dolphins, which looks a little more challenging than it did a couple weeks ago. Arizona at home, a very winnable game. And then last but certainly not least, to wrap it up, Cleveland comes to town, an in-state divisional rivalry. I'm really looking forward to that game because I genuinely think that could have major playoff implications, and there's no other person in the NFL that would love to spoil the Bengals' chances at the playoffs than Myles Garrett and this Cleveland Browns defense. So Joe Burrow has to continue on this hot streak that the Bengals are on with him, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. When they're on the field together, they have a 63% win rate. This is a huge spot for them. I think after this game, if they lose it and the Ravens ended up winning, Baltimore at home the next week will be the game that kind of decides the fate of the season. I guess it'll be a last ditch effort, But it kind of seems like this week at Buffalo is already that. There's just not really any probability towards the AFC North winner having a losing record. I just don't see that happening. So Bengals need a win this weekend. That's probably the most important storyline of all. I mean, the Buffalo Bills also really need to win this game if they want to stay in the hunt for the AFC East title. But once again, that one, as well as the Bengals, is a little far out of reach right now. Next up, we skipped over one. J.J. McCarthy. His job status, in my opinion, is on the line. Look at the Vikings. You cannot tell me that they do not regret moving on from Sam Darnold. That was the wrong decision. Now, Kwesi Mendoza, I believe, I'm butchering his name off the top of my head. I don't have it written down anywhere, but the GM for the Vikings has been brilliant with his decisions to bring in great staff for Kevin O'Connell. Now, Kevin O'Connell, of course, also had some stay in that, but the roster construction is amazing. This offensive line has been one of the best in the NFL over the last couple of seasons. They've struggled this year due to some injuries, but overall, the defense is stacked. The offensive weapons are also unbelievably viable when you look at the rest of the NFL. Justin Jefferson, in my opinion, is still the best wide receiver in the league, but quarterback consistency has been the problem for the Vikings this season. And J.J. McCarthy, in my opinion, has got to perform well if he wants to keep his job as QB1 in Minnesota. He has missed 23 of the 29 potential games that he could have played in throughout the first season and a half of his career. Now, this is all due to injury. I'm not sitting here trying to knock the kid. I mean, he's extremely young. I still believe he's one of the youngest quarterbacks in the league right now in terms of age, but we really need the Vikings to show out and win some games to close out the season. J.J. McCarthy has got to put some good games together. He's 2-4 as a starter, 6 touchdowns, 10 interceptions on a 54% completion percentage. Now, once again, you can't blame all of this on McCarthy. Kevin O'Connell said it himself best. Teams fail young quarterbacks before young quarterbacks fail teams. I don't necessarily think that this is all McCarthy's fault, but I do think the outlook of this Vikings team halfway through last year was you can go and win a Super Bowl with this roster. And the fact that McCarthy and the Vikings, of course, due to injury, have a losing record right now puts into question whether or not he can win in Minnesota. Let's talk about my next storyline now, the AFC South divisional title. This is a massive game between the Jacksonville Jaguars and Indianapolis. Indianapolis on the road, a 1.5-point favorite. Both teams are 8-4 and 2-1 in the division, but the Colts are on a cold streak right now, 1-3 over the last 4 games. Meanwhile, the Jags are the polar opposite, 4-1 in their last 5. Now, look at those 4 wins and who they're against, there's not much to write home about outside of the Chargers. But this game, in my opinion, is going to come down to one thing: creating turnovers. Trevor Lawrence has 11 interceptions and multiple fumbles on the season. This has kind of been an underlying issue throughout his young career. He was, or still technically is, the prince that was promised. And what was promised was divisional titles and playoff appearances. This, in my opinion, could be the biggest game of his career outside of that playoff game versus the Chargers and Chiefs a couple of seasons ago. The Jags have a very strong chance to make the playoffs, and they have an even stronger chance to make the playoffs and win the division with a victory here versus the Colts to go up a full game on Indianapolis. And think about where this rivalry or where this division was just a few weeks ago. The Colts had the best record in the NFL and have completely fallen off. Daniel Jones, of course, playing with that fractured fibula, I believe. That's extremely alarming in my opinion. If Jacksonville can put a body on him, I don't think his escapability is what it was a few weeks ago. I would love to see the Jags pass rush absolutely obliterate this Colts offensive line. But as we've seen so far this season, that's a hard task to do. So this is an unbelievably important game for both teams. Honestly, probably the biggest game of the year for both of these teams. Going forward, the AFC division will run through the winner of this game. Now let's talk about the next AFC rivalry, the North Crown on the line. Now the Ravens and Steelers still have to play twice. They play this week and they play in the last week of the season. But vibes are everything in this league. When you have momentum, you can soar. Just ask the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Chicago Bears right now. And when things are getting bad, they tend to get a lot worse. And for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have been struggling over the last few weeks. And overall, this is a theme that has been coming around Pittsburgh for years. 2017 was their last playoff win, and they just don't have a good record November, December, and January. They are a great September and October team. I remember all of those Big Ben teams that would go, 11-6, but they would start the year like 9-1 and then just absolutely flame out towards the end of the season and not have any adjustments. Now, Baltimore and Pittsburgh are both 6-6. I believe they're both 2-1 in the division. This is a road game for Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers is still banged up. He has that hand injury or arm injury in his left arm, so it's not his throwing one, but he is limited nonetheless, in my opinion. The Pittsburgh Steelers, if they lose this game, will have a losing record. The fire Tomlin chants will only get louder. We heard them last week as the Steelers lost yet again. I'm starting to think that Tomlin is 100% out of Pittsburgh, even if they make the playoffs. Right now, Pittsburgh, like I said, is on an 8-year drought for a playoff victory. Even if the Steelers were to go 9-8 and then lose in the AFC divisional round, that's not good enough for Steelers fans. Aaron Rodgers most likely is going to retire. I think he did say it was going to be his last year, or at least that's what it's trending towards. So I need to see the Steelers do something here late in the postseason that saves Tomlin's job, because in my opinion, it's unlikely that he keeps it if the Steelers go 9-8 and have another playoff loss on their record. Last but certainly not, actually, we have a couple more after this. Excuse me. Let's continue. We've got the Chicago Bears. They have a chance to go out and win the NFC North this week. It's not a lock, but this would obviously put them in an advantageous position to do so. They're 9-3 right now. They've won 9 of their last 10 games. Ben Johnson and his system are working phenomenally in Chicago. They're running the football at an elite rate between Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift. Caleb Williams, yes, his completion percentage numbers are down, but he's not turning the ball over like he was in his young career last season with the old Bears staff. I'm super excited to see what the Bears look like on the road yet again against the Packers. They had a massive win against the Eagles last week. You saw Ben Johnson rip his shirt off. Everybody's so excited. The vibes are just unbelievably high in Chicago right now. So I'm super excited to see what they look like again on the road versus Green Bay. The Packers are 6.5-point favorites, and I think this game all pivots on whether or not the Bears can run the football. If the Bears can move the rock, control the pace of the game, they will absolutely be able to take advantage of this Packers offense that has been anemic outside of last week over the last 8 or 9 weeks. They're really missing Tucker Kraft. He was, in my opinion, the sole contributor to Jordan Love's arsenal. This receiving core is good. It has talent, but they have no number one options. And this has been a problem since Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers left. Can Jordan Love step up in this spot, one game back from the NFC North first place placement? In my opinion, absolutely, but it's all going to depend on whether or not the Packers defense can step up and stop the Bears rushing attack. Now let's talk about Sunday Night Football. Kansas City and Houston battle it out for the 7th seed. Now the Chiefs are way out of the playoff picture right now. They're 6-6 and 3-4 in conference, and the Texans, meanwhile, are on the fringe of that playoff spot. They're 7-5, 6-2 in conference. The winner of this game, I believe, statistically, has a 50+% chance to get into the playoffs with a victory. That's a big if for both of these teams. Kansas City has been unbelievably inconsistent situationally. Third down and the red zone, they have not been great. There have been a couple of weird games that they've had. Now, last season, I believe they were 7-1 or maybe 8-1 in one-score games. This year, they just cannot, for the life of them, win one-score matchups. This Texans team loves to get down dirty in the mud and drag you to the deep end of the pool to find out whether or not you can swim. There are a lot of one-score games on the Texans' schedule right now, and the Chiefs just flat out haven't been good in those. I think the two factors are going to be Mahomes versus Matt Burke. What does Mahomes see on the field at home with a pretty good returning receiving core? Rashee Rice is playing so well, in my opinion. Meanwhile, the Texans, what do they look like versus Steve Spagnuolo, the madman, the mad scientist? The Chiefs blitz at the third highest rate in the league. They're going to put pressure on this Texans offense. CJ Stroud has been one of the most sacked quarterbacks in football over the last 2 seasons. He's coming off of injury. He had a good week last week, but all things change when you go to Kansas City late in the year when it's freezing cold. You find out who wants to play football. I'm so excited for this Sunday night game. It's going to be an absolute banger. And then we wrap up this week with the Eagles. My God, you would think a Super Bowl defending champion at 8-4 would not have the issues that the Eagles have. Yet they do. The fan base is irate. They want to fire the offensive coordinator. The offense is in shambles. They cannot run the ball. They're 23rd in yards per rush. They have the 18th scoring offense in the NFL. Jalen Hurts, I think, is passing the ball pretty well, but when the game relies solely on that, the Philadelphia Eagles offense has looked unbelievably inconsistent. You know, the numbers look okay in terms of passing, but A.J. Brown has had so many complaints about it. I think he's absolutely right. This Eagles offense has yet to adjust and figure out a way to win games outside of their formula from last season. Now, defensively, they're also an absolute mess. Jalen Carter had shoulder surgery. He's out for this week and probably multiple weeks after that. And this is already with an Eagles defense that is struggling to stop the run. The Chargers, with Justin Herbert being questionable, are going to want to run the ball abnormally at an abnormally high level. So the Eagles defense is going to have a major challenge here. The good thing is that this the good thing for the Eagles, I guess, is that this Chargers offense is unbelievably banged up. They have injuries to both their tackles, Joe Alt and, oh my gosh, Rashawn Slater at the left tackle position. They have shifted this offensive line, I believe, 12 times now. Trey Pipkins has started at tackle, and none of their starting offensive linemen have graded well in terms of PFF this year. So the Eagles have a chance to bounce back against a banged-up team. The question is whether or not they can do it. I would think yes, but you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they can't. So those are all my week 14 storylines. I want you guys to check out this video, leave a comment on what other storylines you're paying attention to. These are the major ones in my opinion, but there are so many others with the playoffs being so close to I don't know what are we 3-4 weeks away? So unbelievably exciting. I love the NFL at this time of year. It is just such a good organization to watch late regular season play. There's no other league that does it like the NFL does it. So, with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It's much appreciated. We'll see you next time.